The monitor beside my bed beeps every few seconds. I've stopped counting them. There's a number on a machine somewhere that tells the nurses how much time I have left, and they stopped hiding their faces from me yesterday. That's when I knew. 96 years. Congestive heart failure. They told me this morning, in that careful way doctors talk when they've already decided what words to use, that I have less than 24 hours. My daughter asked the doctor to repeat it. He did. She held my hand and cried into the blanket. She's in the waiting room right now. My son is with her. My grandchildren came in from out of state. They are grieving me while I'm still breathing, and not one of them knows. They think they know everything that matters. They think they know what's in my estate. They think they know who gets the house. They are wrong. The moment I go, and it will be soon, something is going to happen that will shatter this family in a way that no amount of time will fully repair. I did it. I set it in motion years ago. I never told a soul. I'm telling you now, because the guilt has become its own kind of dying, and I don't want to take this to the grave without at least saying it out loud once, so someone out there doesn't make the same mistake I did. I have maybe 20 hours left. If this story needs to exist, subscribe before you hear another word. Help it reach someone who still has time. The house was on a corner lot. White aluminum siding, dark green shutters. My husband and I bought it in 1974. We raised 3 children there. I know every creak in the floorboards. I know which window sticks in July. I know where the light falls in the kitchen on a Sunday morning. Sunday was always the day they came, all of them. My children, their spouses, the grandchildren. I'd make a roast. There was noise. There was arguing over football and talking over each other. And somebody always spilled something. For years I thought that noise meant we were close. I was wrong about that too. It started small, the way my oldest son would walk through the house when he visited and stop in the doorway of certain rooms, not looking at me, looking at the room, measuring something in his head. His wife once asked me, casually, whether I'd ever thought about what would happen to the property. She called it the property, not the house. The property. My daughter started calling more often. She'd ask how I was feeling before I could finish saying hello. I thought it was love. Then I started listening to what came after the concern. How are the stairs treating you, Mom? Have you thought about what you want to do with the big bedroom furniture? Are you still seeing that doctor? I was their mother, and I had become their waiting room. I overheard a conversation I was never meant to hear. My 2 oldest, standing on the back porch last Thanksgiving. They didn't know the kitchen window was cracked. They were talking about square footage, about market value, about what was fair between the 3 of them. My youngest wasn't mentioned once. I stood at the sink with my hands in the dishwater, and I didn't move. I didn't say anything that night. I didn't say anything the next day or the next week. I am not by nature a woman who confronts. I am a woman who thinks. And I thought about it for a long time. And then, instead of confronting them, I made a choice. It was a Tuesday. I remember that because the trash men had come early and I'd missed them, and the bins were still at the end of the driveway when I got off the phone. The call lasted less than 4 minutes. I'd already spoken with the investor twice before, a company that buys homes for cash. No listing, no realtor, no neighbours knowing your business. He told me the number. I said yes. After that there were papers. A notary came to the house. I signed where he pointed. He was professional and quiet, and asked me twice if I had any questions. I said no both times. The wire transfer hit my bank account 11 days later. I did not tell my children. I did not tell my youngest, who I was supposedly protecting. I did not tell my pastor, or my doctor, or my oldest friend, who'd known me since we were both 32 years old. I negotiated a lease-back agreement. That's what they called it. I would pay rent, a fair rate, lower than the market, and I could stay in the house for as long as I was able to live independently. After that, the property was the investor's to do with, as he saw fit. The day after the sale closed, I walked the hallway from the kitchen to the back bedroom, the same hallway I had walked 10,000 times. The runner rug was still there, the one with the pattern my husband picked out. The photographs were still on the wall. My grandchildren as infants, gap-toothed and squinting into summer sun. My son at his college graduation. My daughter at her first job. Nothing looked different, but I was a tenant. And the house that my children believed was their inheritance, the house they had been quietly measuring and dividing in their minds at my dinner table, was gone, had been gone for 11 days, and I had made the beds in it every morning like nothing had changed. I told myself it was justified. I told myself they had turned me into an asset, and this was simply the natural consequence. I told myself my youngest would get the money, and she did eventually, most of it, quietly, through a different arrangement. I told myself I was protecting something, but I know the truth of it, and the truth is that I was afraid and I was hurt, and I was too old and too tired to say so to their faces. So I did the cruelest possible thing instead. I smiled at their Sunday dinners. I let them comfort themselves with the idea of their inheritance. I watched them plan. I let them believe all the way to this hospital room. When I die, tonight, tomorrow morning, whenever it comes, the estate will be settled and they will look for the house. They will call the county. They will find a deed that does not have my name on it anymore. They will not understand at first. Then they will. And then they will understand everything. My daughter is down the hall right now. She brought me a card signed by all of them. She read it to me and held it up so I could see the handwriting. My grandson drew a small heart in the corner in red crayon. I looked at it for a long time. I did not tell her. I keep thinking there was a version of this where I sat them down, where I said, I heard you on the porch. I know what this house means to you, and it is not what it means to me. I felt used. I need you to hear that. That conversation would have been hard. It might have broken things too, but it would have been honest. Instead, I sold the floor out from under them and smiled while they stood on it. There is no version of this that makes me the hero of the story. I know that. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for anything. I'm telling you because I am 96 years old, and there is a beeping machine next to my bed, and I have less than a day left on this earth, and the one thing I know for certain is this: silence is not the same as peace. Keeping a secret is not the same as keeping your dignity, and the things we do out of quiet anger are never as quiet as we think. I could have talked to my children. I didn't. And now I'm lying here, with the weight of it pressing on my chest harder than the fluid in my lungs. But don't do what I did. Say the thing, even if your voice shakes, even if they don't take it well. Say it while you still can, while everyone is still in the same room, while there's still a chance to be honest. I ran out of time. That same weekend they all came for Sunday dinner. I made the roast. I set the table. I folded the napkins the way I always folded them, the way my mother taught me, into a simple rectangle beside the fork. I lit the candle in the center because we always lit the candle. My son came in through the back door the way he always did, dropped his jacket on the chair he'd been dropping it on since he was 17 years old. He kissed my cheek. He smelled like the same soap he'd used since college, and then he sat down at my table, the table that now belonged to a corporation registered in Delaware, and he started talking about the roof. He'd been thinking about it, he said. The back section, over the sunroom, had been soft for 2 years. He wanted to get up there in the spring, do a proper repair, not just patch it. He looked at his brother-in-law and said they could probably do it in a weekend if the weather held. He was planning to fix a roof he would never own. I passed him the bread. My daughter mentioned, not for the first time, that the master bedroom would need new windows before the winter after I was gone. She said it gently, with her eyes on her plate, the way people talk about death when they're trying not to say the word. She said she'd already gotten a quote, double pained. She wanted to do it right. She had a quote. For windows, in a house she had no legal claim to. I said the windows were fine. I watched them eat. I watched them plan. They were building a future inside a structure I had already quietly sold out from beneath them. And here is the thing I understood that night, sitting at the head of that table with the candle burning between us. I had not solved anything. I had not protected myself. I had not protected my youngest. I had not sent a message they would ever receive, because I had never sent it at all. I had just built a trap, and I had baited it with every Sunday dinner that followed, every roast, every folded napkin, every yes, the house will go to all 3 of you. We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it yet. I had baited it with years. The first of every month I wrote a check, not a large one. The rate was fair. The investor had kept his word on that. But I wrote it by hand the old way, because I've always written checks by hand, and I wrote the amount, and I wrote who it was to, and I signed my name, and I sealed it in an envelope, and I mailed it. Every month for years. My children thought the house was paid off long ago. No mortgage, no note, no obligation to anyone. That's what they believed. That's what I let them believe. So when my son would say, "At least you don't have that hanging over you. At least the house is yours free and clear," I would nod, and I would say something like, "Yes, at least there's that." And I would change the subject. The lie was never in the past. That's the part people don't understand about a secret like this one. It wasn't something I'd done and then moved on from. I had to maintain it. Every conversation about the house required me to be careful. Every offhand comment about property taxes, about what the neighbours sold for, about whether I'd thought about updating the kitchen. Every one of those moments was a small test I had to pass. I passed all of them. I was meticulous about it. I'm not proud of that. Meticulous lying is still lying. Last Christmas, 3 of my grandchildren got into a playful argument about who was going to claim the back bedroom, the one with the window seat. They were laughing. It was a joke, mostly. They looked over at me to see if I was laughing too. I laughed. Then this past March, a Tuesday, I couldn't catch my breath while I was making coffee. By the time the ambulance came, I could barely speak. I had not told anyone. Not one person on this earth knew what I had done. I went into that ambulance alone with it, the same way I had carried it alone for years. People will hear this story and say, she shouldn't have sold the house. That's not what I understand now. That's too simple. That's still about the house. What I understand now is this. Avoiding a conflict is not the same as surviving it. When you refuse to say the hard thing does not disappear. It finds another way out. It becomes money moved in secret. It becomes a document signed in front of a notary while your family thinks you're at a doctor's appointment. It becomes years of dinners where you smile at people you are in the process of deceiving. Silence has consequences just as loud as any argument you are trying to avoid. I told myself I didn't have the stomach for the confrontation. But I did have the stomach for this, for the long, slow, private version of the same wound, inflicted over years instead of one honest afternoon. I wanted to punish them. I know that now. I wanted them to feel what I felt standing at that kitchen sink, with my hands in the dishwater, listening to them price out my home while I was still living in it. But I didn't want to watch their faces when I did it. I didn't want to see them hurt. I didn't want to be the one who caused that directly with my own words in a room where they could look back at me. So I used money instead. We use our money to say the things we are too terrified to say with our mouths. Sit with that for a moment, because it's not just me. I see it in estate battles. I see it in changed wills and secret accounts and sudden gifts to one child that another never knows about until the reading. It is everywhere. It is the preferred weapon of people who love each other and cannot find the words. Clean hands. The lawyer handles it. The document says it. You're already gone when they find out. I thought I was being strategic. I was being a coward who had access to a real estate investor's phone number. I want to stop talking about myself for a moment. I want to talk about your Sunday dinners. Not mine. Yours. The ones you drive to or host, or sit through with a glass of something in your hand and a smile that takes more effort than it used to. Think about the last one. Think about what was said. And then think harder about what wasn't. Because I don't think my family was unusual. I think we were ordinary. I think what happened in my kitchen, on my back porch, and around my table, I think versions of that are happening in living rooms across this country every single weekend. Quietly, politely, with good food and someone's grandmother's recipe and nobody saying the thing that everyone is thinking. We call it keeping the peace. I want you to look at that phrase honestly for a moment. Keeping the peace. As if the peace were real. As if you were preserving something that actually exists, rather than just postponing the moment when the pressure finally finds a crack. Avoiding an argument is not peace, it is a delayed war. And the delay does not make it smaller. The delay makes it bigger. It compounds. It gathers weight in the dark, the same way I let mine gather for years. And when it finally comes into the light, and it always does, and eventually it comes out swollen and unrecognizable and far more destructive than the original conversation ever would have been. What truth are you swallowing right now just to keep the holidays pleasant? What are you not saying to your son, to your daughter, to your spouse who has been spending money in a way that frightens you, or your sibling who has been taking more than their share, or your parent who is slowly changing a document somewhere that affects all of you. What invisible rot is sitting in your living room right now, dressed up in good manners and passed over every time someone changes the subject? I know you can feel it. I know because I could feel it too. And I chose comfort over honesty for so long that by the time I recognized what I'd built, the walls were already up. So I am telling you plainly from a hospital bed, with whatever authority a dying woman has left, stop protecting your comfort. Break the glass today. Have the conversation you have been rehearsing in the shower for 2 years and never had. Say the name of the problem out loud, in a room with the people who need to hear it, while you are still healthy enough to sit across from them. Let the family shatter while you are still alive, to help them pick up the pieces. Because the alternative, and I am your evidence of the alternative, is that the shattering happens after you are gone. When you are not there to explain yourself, or apologize, or be looked in the eye, or give them the one thing they will desperately want and never be able to have, which is an answer. Do not make them grieve you and figure out what you did at the same time. Do not hand them a mystery wrapped in a funeral. Speak. Say it imperfectly. Say it while your voice is shaking. Say it while you don't yet have the right words. The words do not need to be right. They need to be said. A hard and clumsy truth spoken at the dinner table will do less damage than the clean, quiet version I chose. The version that waits in a file at a county records office for your children to discover when they think they are closing out your estate. The longer you protect your comfort with a lie, the more violent the truth will be when it finally arrives. I cannot say that any simpler than that. They're just outside this door. I can hear my daughter's voice when the nurse goes in and out. I can't make out the words. I don't need to. I know what people sound like when they're planning a funeral for someone who isn't gone yet. I've heard it before. I sat outside a door like that myself once, 40 years ago, waiting on my own mother. They are probably talking about flowers, about who will speak, about what to do with her things. In 30 days, they will receive a notice from a property management company they have never heard of. It will inform them that the home of their mother, the house on the corner lot with the green shutters, the uneven floorboards, the kitchen window that sticks in July, is not part of any estate they are entitled to, that they need to make arrangements. The only reason I can say any of this out loud, even here, even to a camera, is because of a book. It's called I'm 99. This is what no one tells you after 60. Someone left a copy in my room months ago. I almost didn't read it, but I did, slowly. Oh, and it stripped away every last excuse I had been keeping warm. It looked at cowardice and called it by its name. It looked at silence and refused to call it wisdom. It made me see myself clearly, maybe for the first time in a long time. There is a link to it in the description below, and a QR code on the screen right now. Please read it. Read it before you run out of time the way I did. And while you're here, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments what lie is keeping the peace in your house right now. I want to know. Someone needs to say it, even if it's just in a comment section. I have less than 24 hours left, and I am going to die a coward